to finish? That was my day, times 10. My boss was on my case all day, clients were demanding, and my head was throbbing by the time I finally made it out of the office. I live in this small house on a quiet street with just a handful of neighbors. It's perfect, really, private enough but not too isolated. I like my space, especially after days like this. So, when I got home, all I wanted was to relax. No cooking, no cleaning, just peace. I opened a bottle of red wine, my favorite, poured myself a glass, and collapsed on the couch. For a moment, I just sat there, sipping and staring at the ceiling, trying to let the stress melt away. After a couple of glasses, I felt the tension ease a little. But what I really needed was a long soak in the jacuzzi. That's my go-to when life gets too much. My place isn't big, but it's cozy, and one of the perks is the jacuzzi in the bathroom. I'd saved up for months to have it installed, and honestly, it was worth every penny. Nothing beats slipping into that warm water, especially after a rough day. I figured I'd make it extra special tonight. Candles, a little music, maybe even another glass of wine. I mean, why not, right? So, I went about setting everything up. Lit a few candles around the bathroom, dimmed the lights, poured myself another glass of wine, and slipped into the jacuzzi. The water was perfect, just hot enough to make my muscles relax, but not so much that it made me sweat. I leaned my head back, closed my eyes, and let out a deep sigh. This was exactly what I needed. A few minutes went by, and I was completely zoned out, feeling the wine start to warm my body, mixing with the heat of the water. It was quiet, peaceful. Just me, the water, and the soft glow of the candles. Perfect. Until it wasn't. Suddenly, I heard the bathroom door creak open. My eyes shot open, and for a second, I thought I was imagining it. But no, there he was, Adam, my next-door neighbor, standing in my bathroom, staring at me. I screamed, obviously. I mean, who wouldn't? Jade! Wait. I'm sorry. Adam shouted, his hands up like he was surrendering. I swear I didn't know you were in here. I grabbed the nearest towel and tried to cover myself as best as I could, my heart racing. What the hell, Adam? I yelled. What are you doing in my house? I thought something was wrong, he stammered, his eyes wide and definitely not looking at my face. Your door was open. I knocked, but no one answered. I just wanted to check if you were okay. I didn't know you were showering. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I mean, yeah, I guess it was kind of sweet that he was worried about me. But seriously, barging into my bathroom? That's a whole other level. You couldn't take your eyes off me, I finally managed, half joking but mostly annoyed. His face turned beet red, and he rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's just, you look amazing. I blinked, completely caught off guard. Amazing? I mean, I'd had a crush on Adam since the day I moved in. He's this tall, rugged, kind of quiet guy who keeps to himself most of the time. We've exchanged a few words here and there, small talk about the weather or a mail getting mixed up, but nothing more than that. He's always been nice, though, like, the kind of guy who'd offer to help carry your groceries without making it weird. But him, standing here, confessing that he thought I looked amazing? That was new. Adam, I started, not really sure where I was going with it. He took a step closer, and I instinctively pulled the towel tighter around myself. Jade, I need to tell you something. I've been wanting to say this for a while, but I didn't know how to. And now I've probably just ruined everything, but I like you. Like, a lot. Since the day you moved in, honestly. I was stunned. My mind was racing, trying to process everything. Was this really happening? I mean, it had to be the wine. Or the candles. Or maybe I'd fallen asleep in the jacuzzi, and this was just some weird dream. But no, Adam was still standing there, looking at me, waiting for me to say something. I swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. I couldn't believe I was about to say it, but here goes nothing. I like you too, Adam, I said, my voice quieter than I expected. I've liked you for a while. For a second, neither of us said anything. We just stared at each other, the tension in the room suddenly way different than it was a minute ago. My heart was pounding, but not from fear anymore. It was something else. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was the fact that Adam was standing there, looking at me like that, but before I knew it, I said something I never thought I would. Do you want to join me? His eyes widened, and I could see him hesitate. Jade, I don't want to make you uncomfortable or... You're not, I interrupted, surprising even myself. I'm serious. Come on. He looked like he was debating with himself for a second, but then he slowly started to unbutton his shirt. My heart raced even faster. Was this actually happening? Adam, my quiet, sweet neighbor, was about to join me in the jacuzzi? I felt like I was in some sort of movie. He slipped out of his clothes, and before I knew it, he was sliding into the water next to me. The small space of the jacuzzi suddenly felt even smaller with him in it, but in the best way. The water rippled around us, and for a moment, we just sat there, side by side, neither of us really sure what to do next. I reached for the wine bottle that was sitting on the edge of the tub and poured some into his glass, handing it to him. He took it with a small, nervous smile. This is nice, I said, my voice sounding steadier than I felt. Yeah, it is, he agreed, taking a sip of the wine. We sat there for a few more minutes, the tension between us building, but not in a bad way. It was more like anticipation. The kind where you know something's about to happen, but you're not sure when or how. I found myself inching closer to him, the warmth of the water making me feel a little bolder, a little more daring. I looked over at him, and he was already staring at me. His eyes were dark, intense, and I could feel the electricity between us. I wasn't sure who moved first, maybe it was him, maybe it was me, but before I knew it, we were leaning in closer and closer, our lips just inches apart. And then, the doorbell rang. We both froze. The doorbell rang again, louder this time. I jerked back, my heart pounding for a completely different reason now. Adam looked just as startled, his eyes flicking towards the bathroom door. I didn't know what to do. For a split second, we just stared at each other, both of us caught in this weird mix of tension, surprise, and frustration. Who the hell could that be? I whispered, trying to keep my voice down. Adam shrugged, looking just as confused. I have no idea. The doorbell rang a third time, and this time there was knocking too, as if whoever was outside wasn't going to leave anytime soon. Stay here, I said, pulling myself out of the jacuzzi as quickly and awkwardly as I could. I wrapped the towel around me again, trying to get my thoughts straight. I couldn't believe this was happening. Everything had been so perfect just a second ago, and now? Well, now someone was standing at my door while my neighbor was naked in my bathroom. Awesome. I quickly grabbed my bathrobe off the hook, threw it on, and made my way to the front door, my heart still racing. When I opened it, I wasn't prepared for what, or rather, who, was waiting for me. It was my other neighbor, Kelly, who lived a couple of doors down. She had this concerned look on her face, like she was about to tell me something serious. Jade, she said, her voice breathless. I'm so sorry to bother you, but there's something going on outside. I think someone's been creeping around our houses. Wait, what? I blinked, trying to process what she was saying. My mind was still half in the bathroom, where Adam was probably sitting in the jacuzzi wondering what the hell was happening. Yeah, she continued, looking over her shoulder nervously. I saw a guy walking around earlier, and he was acting really suspicious. Like, peeking into windows and stuff. I was gonna call the cops, but I wanted to make sure you were okay first. Peeking into windows? My stomach dropped. What did he look like? Kelly hesitated, biting her lip. I couldn't get a good look. It was kind of dark, and he was wearing a hoodie. But I just felt like something was off, you know? I glanced back towards the bathroom, a wave of paranoia washing over me. What if someone had seen me and Adam? What if that was why my door was open? My mind was spiraling, 100 different scenarios flashing through my head. Thanks for letting me know, I said, trying to sound calm even though my brain was racing. I'll keep an eye out. Do you want me to stay with you for a bit? Kelly offered, glancing past me into the house. I don't mind. No, it's fine, I cut her off a little too quickly. I'll be okay. Really? I'll lock up and... I'll be careful. She gave me a doubtful look but nodded. All right, just be safe, okay? I'll call the cops if I see him again. With that, Kelly gave me one last worried glance before turning and heading back to her house. I watched her go, feeling this weird mix of relief and anxiety. Part of me was grateful she'd warned me, but the other part of me couldn't stop thinking about the fact that someone might have been watching. I closed the door and locked it, double-checking it just to be sure. Then I leaned my back against it and took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of thoughts in my head. Is everything okay? Adam's voice startled me, and I spun around to see him standing in the hallway, still dripping wet from the jacuzzi. He had wrapped a towel around his waist, and his hair was a messy, wet tangle. Yeah, I said, shaking my head. Kind of. Kelly thinks someone's been creeping around outside. Adam's face darkened. What do you mean, creeping? I quickly explained what Kelly had told me, and as I spoke, I could see Adam's expression change. He wasn't just concerned, he looked pissed. That's messed up, he muttered. If someone's been watching you. I don't even want to think about it, I cut him off, rubbing my forehead. Honestly, today has been way too much for me already. First work, then this. I gestured vaguely towards the bathroom, and now a possible creeper. I just can't. Adam stepped closer, his hand resting on my arm in a way that was meant to be comforting. I can stay over tonight, if you want. Just in case. I stared at him for a moment, trying to decide if that was a good idea or a terrible one. I mean, we were just about to, well, something was definitely about to happen before the doorbell rang. And now he was offering to stay the night? Was that really a good idea, considering everything? But then again, the thought of being alone after what Kelly said didn't exactly appeal to me either. The idea that someone might have been watching me, us, made my skin crawl. You don't have to, I said, though my voice lacked conviction. I want to, Adam said firmly. Besides, it's not like I was planning on leaving anytime soon. That made me smile a little, despite everything. Okay, I finally agreed. You can stay. We stood there for a moment, the awkwardness creeping back in now that the whole someone's watching situation had cooled down a bit. I should probably get dressed, Adam said, glancing down at his towel. Yeah, same, I said, suddenly very aware of the fact that I was still in my bathrobe. There's an extra towel in the bathroom if you want to dry off more. Thanks. Adam gave me a small smile before disappearing into the bathroom again. I took a deep breath and made my way to my bedroom, my mind still racing. This wasn't exactly how I imagined my night going, but I guess that's life, right? Full of unexpected twists. And now Adam was staying over. I had no idea what was going to happen next, but at least I wasn't alone. After a few minutes, I changed into some comfortable clothes, nothing fancy, just a pair of sweatpants and a tank top, and when I came back out, Adam was already sitting on the couch, looking much more comfortable in his own clothes. Do you want something to drink? I asked, trying to break the silence. He looked up at me and smirked. More wine? I laughed, shaking my head. Maybe not wine. I think I've had enough of that for tonight. Fair enough, he said, still smiling. We settled on tea, and after a few minutes, we were both sitting on the couch, sipping our mugs and talking. It felt nice, surprisingly comfortable, despite the strange turn the night had taken. We talked about everything and nothing, work, the neighborhood, random things we hadn't really discussed before. It was easy, and I found myself relaxing again, the tension from earlier slowly fading away. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't stop thinking about what had almost happened in the bathroom. The way Adam had looked at me, the way I had felt when he was so close. There was still something between us, something unspoken, and I knew it wasn't just going to go away because we had tea instead of wine. And honestly, I didn't want it to go away. After a while, the conversation lulled, and we sat there in silence, the only sound the faint hum of the heater. Adam glanced at me, his expression unreadable, and for a moment, I thought maybe he was going to say something about earlier. But instead, he just said, "Thanks for letting me stay, Jade." I smiled, feeling my heart skip a beat. Anytime. We both knew there was more to say, but for tonight, we were content to leave it at that. Whatever was going to happen between us, we had time to figure it out. For now, we were just two neighbors, sitting together in the quiet, the air still thick with the possibility of what might come next. As the night went on, we stayed on the couch, our conversation quieting down. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence though, it felt more like a calm after the storm. I don't know what it was, but having Adam there just felt right. It was strange considering the whirlwind of emotions earlier, but now that things had settled, I was glad he stayed. I caught myself glancing over at him every now and then, my thoughts drifting back to what had almost happened in the bathroom. There was this magnetic pull between us, something I hadn't expected when the night started. And though we were sitting a little farther apart now, I could still feel the tension simmering just beneath the surface. I was trying to distract myself, sipping my tea, when Adam broke the silence. "Jade," he said, his voice soft but serious, about earlier. "I don't want you to feel like I was trying to take advantage of the situation." I looked up at him, surprised by how genuine he sounded. He was leaning forward, his hands clasped together, his eyes searching mine like he really needed me to believe him. "I didn't plan on barging into your bathroom like that," he continued, running a hand through his hair nervously. "It was stupid, I know. And what almost happened. I just don't want you to think I was pushing for it or anything." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words sink in. I didn't think he was pushing for anything. In fact, I was the one who had invited him to join me, and I didn't regret it. But I appreciated that he wanted to clear the air, to make sure I was okay with everything. "Adam," I started, trying to find the right words, "I don't feel like that at all. Trust me, I'm just as responsible for what happened, or almost happened. It wasn't just you." He looked relieved but still uncertain. I like you, Jade. A lot. And I don't want this to get weird between us. You're my neighbor, and I don't want to mess things up." I smiled a little, touched by how careful he was being. "I like you too," I admitted, my voice quieter than I intended. "And I don't think anything's messed up. If anything, I'm glad we finally talked about it." Adam blinked, like he wasn't expecting me to be so straightforward. For a second, neither of us said anything, but the air between us shifted again. There was that tension again, the kind that made my heart race and my mind wander to places I probably shouldn't go. "You're glad?" he asked, his voice a little rougher now. "Yeah," I said, meeting his gaze. "I mean, I've been thinking about you since I moved in. I just never thought you felt the same." He shook his head, letting out a breathless laugh. "Jade, I've liked you from the second I saw you. I just didn't know how to say it." I laughed, feeling a mix of relief and something else, something warmer. "Well, I guess we're both bad at timing then." We both laughed, the tension easing a little, but it didn't disappear completely. Adam shifted closer on the couch, just a little, and I felt my pulse quicken again. I didn't want things to get weird either, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore the way my body reacted to him, the way my heart sped up when he was this close. "Do you want to talk about what happens next?" he asked after a long pause, his voice low and careful. I bit my lip, my mind racing with the possibilities. I didn't know if I was ready to dive into something serious tonight, but I also didn't want to pretend there wasn't something between us. Something real. "I don't know," I said honestly, my voice soft. "But I don't want to overthink it either. I like being with you, Adam. That's all I know right now." He nodded, his expression softening. "That's enough for me." For a moment, we just sat there, the warmth of the tea and the comfort of his presence wrapping around me like a blanket. It wasn't a perfect situation, but it was ours, and I was okay with that. Adam shifted again, this time closing the gap between us. His knee brushed against mine, and I felt that familiar spark shoot through me. I glanced at him, and he was already looking at me, his eyes dark and intent. "I don't want to mess this up," he said quietly, his voice almost a whisper now. "You won't," I replied, my voice barely audible. And then, before I could second-guess it, I leaned in. It was subtle at first, just the faintest movement, but Adam didn't hesitate. He met me halfway, his lips brushing against mine in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't rushed or frantic like I thought it might be. It was slow, deliberate, like we both knew this was a moment we'd remember. When we pulled back, there was this unspoken understanding between us. Neither of us needed to say anything more. We just understood. He smiled, a small, genuine smile that made my heart skip a beat. "So, do you want to finish that wine after all?" I laughed, the tension finally breaking. "Yeah, I think I do." We got up, refilling our glasses, the atmosphere between us lighter now, but still charged with something new. There was no rush to figure everything out right now. We had time. For the rest of the night, we just talked, laughed, and shared the bottle of wine, the weight of the day slipping further and further away. The night turned into early morning, and before I knew it, we were both yawning, our exhaustion finally catching up with us. I glanced at the clock, surprised to see how late it had gotten. "You should stay," I said, feeling a little shy even though we had spent the whole night together. "It's late, and, well, I don't really want to be alone." Adam nodded, his smile soft. "I'll stay. But only if you want me to." "I do," I said quickly, realizing just how true that was. We ended up in my room, and though the night had been full of unexpected twists, this part felt easy, natural. We crawled into bed, the warmth of the blankets pulling us in, and I found myself curling up next to Adam without a second thought. It wasn't anything more than that. Just two people, sharing a space, finding comfort in each other. And as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but think about how crazy the night had been, but also, how right it felt. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring or how things would play out between us, but for tonight, everything felt exactly as it should be. And that was enough.